go ahead and get started today. Welcome. So glad to have you here. And just as a note, this meeting is being recorded so that it can be posted online for anyone who would like to hear it. You will be able to find those recordings on the KDAD's website, probably later this week or early next. Before we get too deep today into our content, I want to start off by introducing Alejandro Palacio, who's going to be providing Spanish interpretation. And Alejandro is going to give some instructions for how you can listen to this meeting in Spanish. Please go ahead, Alejandro, when you're ready.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Alejandro Palacio, voy a ser intérprete de ustedes para el idioma del español. Va a haber un botón abajo donde pueden seleccionar inglés, el audio original, o incluso también elegir el audio del español, donde se estarán escuchando la voz mía en vez de la de voz de ellos, donde podrán ver la presentación y al mismo tiempo simultáneamente podrán escuchar la voz mía de lo que ellos van diciendo.
Thank you so much, Alejandro. I'm going to start that interpretation now. As soon as it allows me to. I'm having just a little technical difficulty. Give me just 1 second to see why this isn't starting. All right, there we go. Sorry about that. Technology is great until it isn't. We also do have ASL interpretation available today. If you are needing to use that, you can highlight or pin the video for Russell Berry. He is providing our ASL interpretation today. And we are grateful to have both he and Alejandro here to help make these meetings more accessible. If we haven't met before, I'm Carrie McMahon from the Community Engagement Institute at Wichita State University. Also on the call today are my colleagues, Cy Rogers and Lisa Jones. If you need assistance during our call, please message Cy or Lisa and they will help you out and help you troubleshoot. We're facilitating these calls to help with moving the agenda and taking notes. Our role is to help make it as easy as possible for you to hear new information and ask questions about what you hear today. So if there's anything we can do that will make it easier, please let us know. This call is a part of a bi-monthly series hosted by KDADS to share information and updates about HCBS in the state of Kansas. We do encourage you to visit the KDADS LTSS Commission webpage to stay up to date, and we'll put that in that link in the chat a few times. And speaking of links in the chat, please make sure you do not click external links from others in this meeting if they don't come from a member of the KDADS or WSU staff. We try to avoid it, but once in a while we do get folks coming in and sharing other things, and we don't know what those are. So we will announce or let you know when we are going to share something in the chat that you could or should click on. We will have time for you to ask questions about what you hear today later on. We'll have plenty of time for your questions, but to minimize disruption, we do ask you to wait to ask questions until we get to that point of the meeting. You will be able to share your questions out loud or in the chat. And like I said, we'll have plenty of time for you to share when we get there. And finally, if you have a webcam, we do invite you to turn it on. It's nice to see other folks' faces. And it's certainly not required, but we do enjoy getting to see the faces of who all has joined us today. And today we're going to have several updates for you, including KDAD staff changes, federal medical assistance percentage or FMAP updates, updates to policies, waiver renewals and amendments, and HCBS settings. And that is a lot of ground to cover. So we are going to get started just as soon as we can. And to get us started with updates on KDAD's staffing, I believe we have Michelle Hayden joining us, and she will be kicking off our updates. Is that right, Megan?
I think Seth is going to take this one for Michelle.
All right. Thanks, Megan.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Just a real quick update here on staffing changes. I can't recall if we had split the LTSS commission the last time we had met. But if we had not, that has now been official. We do have a separate aging commission at this point in time. And that commissioner is David Anderson. Um, so our commission is really, it frees up a lot of bandwidth for us to kind of focus more on the HCBS side of things. Um, Additional staffing updates, we did hire a new individual under program and policy oversight. That is Mohammed Nahid Ul Islam. And I apologize, Mohammed, because I probably butchered your last name. Um, but he might be reaching out to some of you all just through various initiatives that we have. So if you see his name pop across your email, that is where he's at. Um, we also have had some fairly significant changes on the IDD side of things, where Robin Lohman is our assistant IDD director. She was working in the capacity as our interim IDD program manager and our QA person. However, she has accepted the assistant IDD director, and in her stead, we've hired Letha Farwell, who is will be our IDD program manager. I think a lot of you have probably been interacting with her since she's been hired. We also have hired a program manager for the community support waiver. So that effort will be kicking up are really hot and heavy this year. Jessica Shadell is our community support waiver program manager as well. So we're very excited to kind of have a really robust IDD team now, because it's been, I think, sorely needed. Um, Other than that, we're still very close, I think, to recruiting and bringing somebody on board for the SED TA program manager, but we do not have anything to share right now, or anything additional to share on that front right now.
Thank you, Seth. And it looks like Mitzi, you were gonna
Yes,
give us the FMAP update.
sure.
Please go ahead.
Sure. Okay, so hello everyone. I'm Mitzi Tyree. I am the Director of HCBS Initiatives here at KDADS. Just to kind of give you an update on our FMAP projects, we have gone through our first round of pilot for our Employment First study, which is wonderful. And our pilot groups are Compass Behavioral Health, Down Syndrome Innovations, OCCK, and Starkey. And they've gone through that, and they're working on their second level of the pilot program. We're continuing to work on the wait list. We have had conversations with Representative Carpenter, on the wait list, and we continue to strategize how we can make that wait list more seamlessly in the future, thanks to KU. We're working our targeted case management study that should be ending at July 1. And that's about conflict-free case management. And we'll provide updates to you from our contractor PCG here shortly. And we are working on our behavioral health initiatives with DCF and KUMC. We have some projects that we're working on to get approved and passed, and that is self-advocacy grants, hiring 3 additional staff here for the FMAP team, one to lead our person-centered support planning goals through charting the life course, another taking Megan Shepard's old position, and another for technology grants. We're working on technology grants, career ladder RFP, and our Behavioral Health Commission is working on the mobile crisis unit. Those are all the updates I have. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna hand things over then to Megan Shepard, who is gonna give us a policy update.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming out to the stakeholder call. I just have a few updates on policies. I just want to thank everyone for their comments on the AIRS policy, the ongoing monitoring policy, and the transition policy. We are working through those public comments, and I anticipate we will have responses posted within the month. Additionally, we're also working on the PD eligibility public comment, and we'll have those posted also. Looking ahead, excuse me, looking ahead for public comments, we are developing policies and working with stakeholders to ensure that those policies, have everyone's voice listed into them. And I will continue to provide updates around policies using the listserv. So if you make sure that you sign up, if you want to be informed of upcoming public comment policies and meetings like this. I do not have anything else as far as policies goes. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Megan. And I know I saw a question in the chat, and we will keep those and ask those. I will ask them for you when we get to that portion of our presentation. So thank you for those. And next up, we have waiver renewal and amendment updates. And Lee, I think that was going to be you. Is that right?
I am on. Yes. Hello, everybody. Thank you. So just a couple of updates. I think everybody is aware, but we've had the renewals out for the BI waiver and the IDD waiver. Those public comment periods will officially be ending at the end of the business day today. We kind of stretched those out a little bit because we kind of hit funny timing over the weekend, and we just wanted to make sure that either via this call or folks that didn't have a chance to attend those sessions until the last ones were held, that everybody have an opportunity to make those comments. So if you need to do so, please do. We're very thankful for everybody's participation and all that great input that we've received. So a big thank you to everybody for that. As far as amendments go, we do still have some amendments out with CMS. Those are not yet completed, but we will continue on those conversations with CMS to get those finalized, and we'll provide further updates on that. Oh, Carrie, I think you're still on mute. Either that or my audio just went out.
Nope, that was
Okay.
me. Thank you for that. Finally, for updates today, Seth is going to join us again for settings final rule updates.
Yeah, so I think the biggest one Megan kind of already touched on is we've had those two policies that are related to the settings rule that have been out related to the ongoing monitoring policy, which kind of details the state's process for initial review of providers as it relates to the criteria of the rule, and then what we're going to do on an ongoing basis to make sure providers continue to meet the regulatory requirements. And then we've got the transition policy for those instances in which providers either are non-compliant or choose to bow out of providing HCBS altogether, what those expectations would be in those instances. So we're in the process of looking at those comments, taking that feedback, and trying to incorporate how we can, really make this as smooth as possible. But I kind of expect us to only get smarter as this goes, as we move forward through this. So we don't necessarily have all of the answers right now, as I'm sure you all are aware. But we're very eager to just kind of continue this effort and this engagement with our providers here. We also have, as Mitzi kind of touched on, some of the initiatives related to how they intersect with the rule is very connected, between, we want to roll out Charting the Life course as kind of our person-centered service planning tool and support planning tool. And so that'll be a pretty broad initiative that we take on, because I kind of view that as settings rule and person-centered planning as like two sides of the same coin. So we know that we've got to do much more of a robust job for the system when it comes to the person-centered service planning. We're also in the works of writing some RFAs for some settings rule grants. So we're hoping to get some of that information out in the next month or so. So providers can start to see if we've got some funds that maybe they can expand some of those services that are compliant with the rule. And so we're just in the midst of writing what those requirements will look like. So keep your eyes and ears out for those. And then outside of that, we're still in some negotiations with CMS related to the site visit that was completed just over a year ago now, by a day or two. So we will be resubmitting our response to CMS related to that site visit. They've requested that, and so once we've got a resubmission to them, we will be posting that on our website as well, and we'll be updating you all through these calls.
Thank you, Seth, for those updates, and thank you to the rest of the KDADS team for the updates that you shared. Appreciate those and the sharing of information. We are getting ready to open things up for your questions about the updates that you've heard. You can share those questions out loud or in the chat, or you can put them in the question and answer box. We have lots of opportunities for you and ways for you to share your questions. And I do want to note that in the Q&A box, you should be able to submit your question anonymously if that's what you would prefer. While we get ready to do this, just a couple of reminders. If you want to share your comments or your questions out loud, please use the raise hand function to do so. And to find that, you can click on the reactions button in your toolbar and then choose raise hand. If you're one of the couple of folks who are dialed in by phone, then you can raise your hand using *9. And then when called on, you'll unmute using *6. So again, *9 will raise your hand if you are only on the phone. And to make sure we can hear from as many people as possible, KDADS is only going to be able to respond to questions today related to the topics that we covered in this meeting. So related to the updates that were shared. If you have other questions or need help problem solving something else, then we encourage you to contact KDADS for assistance outside of today's meeting. With that, we are ready to start taking questions. So please go ahead and raise your hand or put those in the chat and we will start asking for you. And Sai, I know we already had one in the chat about the FMAP grants and that there was a follow-up. If you want to go ahead and we can start there.
Yeah, so the first question was asking if there was a place to find more information on the grants that Mitzi had mentioned. And Mitzi responded in the chat that the grant RFAs have not been posted yet. We are still working on that language and welcome any input. As a follow-up, Shelley May asked if you could post objectives for the grant projects and how to provide input. That would be useful. And I also have someone else in the chat asking if more information could be shared about the self-advocate grants.
So right now we don't have a whole lot of information to share. Besides that, we have some funds that we would like to provide to self-advocate groups to increase self-advocacy across the state. I think that Sherry had a great idea. Thank you, Sherry, as far as sending out information as to where you could provide input in the objectives of each grant. And we will definitely get that posted and share with you by the end of the week. So great idea. Thank you. I appreciate that because we do want to solicit as much input as possible prior to writing those. But I think that's it.
Thanks, Mitzi. And
Carrie, I want to highlight something that was shared in the chat regarding some FMAP information that you can go to the KDADS website and find out some more information about that at the link in the chat.
Great, thank you. And we do have one question in the Q&A box, and that is, when is the PCG TCM study ending?
So it ends at the end of June of this year.
Thank you.
I have a question in the chat, Carrie.
Please go ahead.
Any time frame for the transition to CTLC plans?
So that's a very good question. The time frame that we're working on is really what we're trying to do with the CTLC is change philosophy across the state, change so that things are more person-centered than they have been in the past. And part of that is changing culture internally first. So we're focusing on internal culture, and then we will be sharing that information externally. As far as, policies or anything like that to changing to CTLC, there hasn't been any conversation about that as of yet, because most of our work as far as what we should do, how should do it, when we should do it, will be done between now and December of 2020. We're hoping to get started in January 5-year progression plan. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
We missed just a little bit of what you said. You froze a little bit there at the end.
Okay.
Mitzi.
Was it the 5-year progression plan? We
Thanks.
hoped. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, if I could distill it down, we will be partnering with UMKC for this initiative, and we hope to have a contract signed here in the next month or so.
Thank you. And Craig, thank you. Craig put in the chat, CTLC is charting the life course. So that's what that acronym is. Appreciate you sharing that with us, Craig. All right. I don't have anything else in the Q&A box or see raised hands. Sai, do you have anything in the chat that we haven't seen?
I do not.
All right. Well, we'll leave plenty of space for you to ask your questions if they are brewing. And while you're thinking, I want to make a couple of notes. This recording, as well as registration for our upcoming meeting in May, will be on the KDAD's website. So that information will be there and updated later this week. And Sai, would you mind putting the link in the chat again for where to find that? Oh, you are so on top of it. Thank you.
And I do have a question in the chat as well as a statement. So I'll start with the statement and move to the question.
Great, thank you.
Families Together is also offering Charting the Life Course Foundation training for those who are interested in more information. And that was Tammy Allen who put that in the chat as well. Tammy, if folks want to know more, are they able to reach out to you?
Yes, they can contact Families Together. We have a grant with Aetna to provide foundation training, which is kind of an hour, gives you an introduction to what the life course is. And then we are also offering scholarships for those individuals who are interested in becoming ambassadors. So if we've done the foundation training and you want to do more and do some facilitation and do some training within your agency, we'll provide scholarships for that as well. So just contact me and we'd be happy to set that up.
Yeah, Tammy, thanks. Part of what we intend to do with UMKC is they'll come in and they'll look at kind of the system as a whole. What other best practices, person-centered type practices do we have here? Where can we leverage what's already happening? Because we don't want to duplicate and just send people through a training and call it one and done. It's like we're really looking for a real thoughtful approach and a way that we can kind of have some sustainability in this initiative here. So yeah, we definitely will be taking a very holistic view of this process.
And then Sai, I think there was a question as well.
Yes, I have. Is UMKC providing training for Charting the Life Course or CTLC?
Yeah, I mean, that's a bit of a loaded question.
Yeah. They'll be providing us the outline as to how we should roll out those initiatives.
Yeah. Yeah, because like I said, we don't want it to just be a training one and done, and then 2, 3 years, 10 years down the road, you've got all this turnover and people who were trained are no longer in the system. So it's how can we really incorporate this into our practices and our policies, and we have like a continual stream of ambassadors coming up, and so there's a lot that I can't necessarily speak to because I'm not necessarily the subject matter expert, but we know that there have been some a lot of other good movement on these with other states doing similar initiatives, and so we're hoping to kind of replicate that here and adapt it to Kansas.
You. And we do have one question in the Q&A box. And what additional or different information will be in the resubmitted letter to CMS related to the 3/15/23 site visit?
Yeah, so we had kind of, when we had provided a response to CMS, we'd kind of focused on more of the zoomed out, broader systemic efforts that we want to take through either policy initiatives or waiver changes, and some of these other, person-centered service planning type changes, charting the life course, et cetera. I mean, but we know that that's a lot of these take time and effort and aren't going to be just we can get these done in 6 months and be done with it. So CMS was really looking for what the state is in our current present state operations. How are we going to remediate with the specific providers that were visited? So that's really what they're looking for is how can we those deficiencies that were identified with those few providers that were visited. They want us to see our mechanisms and processes that we're going to take to bring them into compliance as the system is right now, knowing that we're kind of in this awkward in-between phase where we've got some broader systemic efforts to undertake to bring the whole system into compliance. So that's really what they're looking at, and but also wanting just kind of an update on where we are and some of those other initiatives that were called out in that plan. So.
Okay. Bye. Anything in the chat?
Yeah, I have a comment and a question. I'll start with the comment first. The first is, charting the life course is great. UMKC was very supportive when we transitioned in Missouri several years ago. So vote of confidence there for moving this forward. And a question on, is charting the life course replacing the current statewide person-centered planning document used by case managers?
It is not designed to replace that document. It's designed to enhance that document so that a person-centered support plan is not 75 pages long and systemically driven. We really want to be person-centered focused. I'm sorry, Seth, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, charting the life course, UMKC, they've got a full suite of tools and checklists and everything that use, but that's really to aid the thinking, right? I mean, so we'll look at what tools we might be implementing, but the goal here is kind of that paradigm shift in thinking about how you actually support the individuals that are in services.
Thank you.
I don't have questions in the chat, but I do want to call out someone mentioning that the current template already has aspects of charting the life course on page 1.
Yes, it does.
Thank you for those questions and feedback.
I do have a question in the chat here.
Go ahead.
Will the PCSP template be revised more?
At this point, we really don't know. We haven't had those conversations with UMKC.
Yeah, there's some gaps in, I think, understanding what all is encompassed in that PCSP. And so part of the goal is to kind of rethink about what all the elements that need to be, in a person-centered service plan. Because right now I think we've got, there's some fragmentation, depending on which waiver an individual's on. So there's, I think, an opportunity for some standardization from a process standpoint. But so yeah, I guess that's kind of a non-answer. But we'll be everything's kind of on the table.
Seth, this is Latanya, and I'll jump in, of course, for final rule. So I will say a yes to that for everybody, because we have to assure that the updated tools will capture the requirements of final rule. So there will be changes.
Yeah, Cody, and I see you asked there about the service plan or the support plan. So, and that's part of that fragmented view, right? So, I mean, the service plan, that's the broad umbrella. That encompasses everything, right? Of the support plan, the options counseling, the service authorizations, all of that stuff needs to be incorporated in the service plan. So we're looking at a very global view from a kind of a CMS perspective, what they consider to be in that PCSP.
So I have another question in chat regarding CTLC, and that's, who do you envision requiring CTLC training for case managers or others?
So we envision, changes across the entire system, across all waivers. So that training, would be for providers, case managers, families, individuals. We expect that to be across the entire system.
I want to call out a comment in the chat as well, that CTLC is not necessarily a form to fill out, but a way of thinking, and the tools prove support to gather the information, or provide support to gather the information.
Thank you. Not seeing other questions or hands raised at this time. We'll leave some more space for folks to get in there. If you have something that you are thinking about asking, and we don't want to keep us longer than we have to, or longer than you all need us to be here. So I will go ahead and make this our last call for questions. So if you've got a question that you've been thinking about or trying to formulate, this is the time to get it in there.
I do have a question in the chat, Carrie.
Go ahead.
Is there discussion to put the service plan and the support plan together?
There currently is not that discussion. However, it could be discussion. We're still in the infancy of all these stages.
This is Latanya, and again, for final rule, yes, there has been discussions on that, Mitzi, from the final rule team, as we again check for final rule requirements. And that is one of the concerns from all the different providers, is that each entity, the case managers, foster care, the IDD providers, the aging providers, they all see different parts of the plan. And that was one of the concerns. So the final rule team is pushing, we're calling it a packet. And we're advocating for everybody to have the whole entire service plan packet as we go forward and make those changes.
I have one more question in the chat here, and that is, what are the next steps after TCM study ends at the end of June?
So we plan to provide an update from PCG regarding options. They've provided the state of Kansas several options into the directions that we can go in to make conflict-free case management. So what we plan to do is have an update with stakeholders and provide them opportunity to provide input to the options as to what they think makes the most sense. And from there, we will start rolling out, how we will do that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mitzi.
Mhm.
All right, I'm not seeing anything else come through. So looking at all of the different mechanisms for questions, it looks like we've cleared the board. So we'll go ahead and end a little bit early today. Just as a reminder, you can reach out to KDADS if you need help with another issue. You can reach out to them by email. And we'll put that email in the chat one more time. And our next meeting of this type will be on May 20th. Registration for that meeting will open tomorrow. And the email with that registration link will be sent to the listserv tomorrow as well. So watch your inboxes for that. If you need to sign up for the listserv, you can do that through emailing KDADS as well. And please remember that these calls are an ongoing resource for you to stay up to date on HCBS and what KDAD staff is working on. We really appreciate you spending your noon hour with us, and look forward to talking to you again in May. And we will see you then. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.